Back of the net. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Podcast, the podcast that takes iconic fantasy characters and chucks them into the high-stakes environment of a five-a-side football match. My name's David Uttridge and I'm joined as ever by a man who I'm learning to love, Rob Lambert.
Hello.
The rules are simple. Each week, one of us takes on the role of the home side and gets to select a theme for us to base our player picks on. We select a goalkeeper, a centre-back, a centre midfielder, a winger and a striker, plus one super sub, and play out the key matchups. At the end, the team with the most goals is declared the winner. Rob's the home side this week, meaning he gets the advantage of picking a theme and choosing first. Is this the week he can finally win his first game? Let's find out in week 3 of Fantasy Football. Cue titles! So, Rob, we're into week 3. 2 games, 2 defeats for you. What have you done differently this week to turn it all around?
Well, I think, it's hard to know what to do, especially when you've lost 2 from 2. But I think I've kind of tried to play to my strengths this week, and I've gone for a theme that I think kind of it kind of sums up something I've always been aware of and knowledgeable about. So I feel like we've got a strong chance this week. I know I've said that every week, but I can't lose every single. Well, I could technically lose every single week, but I'm hoping not.
It would make it quite a predictable podcast.
Yeah, it's sort. I think eventually I just have to leave it, and you'd have to do it with someone else because it's not really. It'd just be like you've won, and I didn't know you could win a podcast, but maybe you will.
Get a challenge going again. Maybe you could assistant manager for someone. I don't know.
Yeah, at best it's getting to that point. I'll just be one of the cows.
Yeah, the one that isn't the main one, sub-Cowley.
Yeah, there's Danny Cowley, and then there's I don't know. Bill Cowley. I couldn't tell you. He's just the other one.
So I guess before we reveal the theme you've picked for this week, would you like to tell everybody what you sent me in the post as my prize for winning Witches and Wizards last week?
Well, I know you were happy with your first prize from week 1, and I wanted to get you something a bit more personalised. So, I thought, you're a glasses wearer, which is
I'm not ashamed.
Which is good.
I'm not ashamed. Out and proud.
Well, exactly. You won't mind me saying that if people don't know. And I thought I'll get you exactly the glasses that you'd wear, the sort of style you'd have, and I thought it's quite a nice personal thing. So. Did you get that okay?
Yeah. Gift wrapped, which was nice. Opened it up.
Yeah.
Quite. Yeah. So I wear a rounded spectacle. I have red ones because I'm cool. These were a lovely shade of blue. And I thought, oh, that's really nice. How did he know my prescription? And it turned out there were no lenses in them.
Yeah, well, I thought, it wasn't really intentional. I kind of thought that, it'd just be okay. I wasn't sure if maybe you wore them for style or for, I just assumed it was best not to ask. So I just got them as is. But, I thought you'd be happy with that.
Well, you'll be pleased to know they are, they're in a box in my airing cupboard now. And I think when I come around to doing some Marie Kondo, they'll be out. So that was a waste of your money and a waste of my time.
One could assume that maybe I'd got you a present that was deliberately disappointing after 2 weeks losing to you. They could think that, but whether I did that on purpose is, I guess we'll never know.
I almost want you to win this week, just so I can get some payback. Speaking of which, it will be in the episode title. But we should probably officially unveil this week's theme and why.
This week I've gone for Well, I mean, I'll introduce it in a different way because last week saw the final episode of WandaVision on Disney Plus, and with anything Marvel, which I've always been a massive fan of Marvel, even for being very young. And when it ended, there's a lot of people kind of saying like, "Where's the villain?" Because the whole point of it, if you've not seen it, then maybe don't listen
Okay,
to any
I'll
more
have to
of
mute you.
this. But, yeah, yeah. Hello. But the kind of the point of it was that Vision had died in Endgame, and if you've not seen Endgame yet, that was
Yeah, it's
years
a
ago
fair
now.
game.
So it's way too. Actually, no, I think he died in Infinity War, so that's already a mistake. But he died. He died in that, and Wanda was missing him. And so in WandaVision, it's effectively she's trying to get him back, but by the end of the show, you're kind of waiting for a villain to come into it, and there isn't one. If anything, the villain is her own grief, and she's by default the villain because she does things that kind of hinder the lives of other people and put other people in danger, just so she can kind of like pretend that he's still alive when he isn't. But because of that, I kind of thought what I sort of missed from that was an actual villain, and so I thought we'll make this week about Marvel villains. So this week's Marvel villains with anybody who's classed as a villain in the Marvel universe, the actual like film and TV MCU or the comics.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a good week for me. I grew up watching like animated X-Men, the animated Spider-Man. Obviously, I've loved the MCU and all the associated bits from it. I'm a big universe man, and I loved how it all came together at the end. So I've got some villains. I think I've got some villains from across the spectrum as well. So hopefully you've got a team that can go toe to toe with it. Confident?
I am, but I'm also wary of you because week 1 you beat me at my own game. Week 2 you beat me at your game, and then week 3 I know you're not. It's not like you're completely unknowledgeable about this at all. We're on the same level with this, so it's a bit of a tough one. But I'm happy with my choices, and there's some I'm really excited about.
Well, you'll get first choice as well, so that is always an advantage. I guess all that's left for the pre-match chit chat would be to reveal your team name. It's not been a high quality part of the show so far, but here's hoping this week.
That's fair.
What you got?
Well, actually, I know that obviously we're both at our mostly downs with picking team names, but I went to a lot of effort this week because, well, I mean, one man's effort is another man's massive disappointment. But to me, I was very happy with this. But I came up with so many. There were some that I just didn't think were worth mentioning at all, but I came up with so many that I've actually got a list, like a long list of them. Which I'll go through after yours because in case somehow we've once again like gone over the same things. I'll listen to yours, but I've got a list of some that I want to go through as like honourable mentions. But out of the ones I picked, my chosen team name is Borussia Dortmund.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah,
as in a mix between Borussia Dortmund and Dormammu, the baddie from
yeah,
Doctor
that's very strong. I like that.
So yeah, I'm very happy with that. But I've got a long list which I'll go through after you've unveiled yours.
Yeah. So I've sort of tried to get in your head a bit with this one, because I know which Spanish team you like the most. So can you really bring yourself to defeat Valencia? Valencia. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, that's good because
that's a very good one. That's not in my list at all.
It's all right. I mean, let's not overegg it. It's no Borussia Dormammu.
Starting off, I wanted to kind of, I mean, if anything, this is kind of revenge, to be honest, because last week you started with your goalkeeper, and it was Gandalf, and my goalkeeper was also Gandalf. And due to that, you obviously got an opening point, and it kind of obviously it started another win for you. So what I've done is I've gone for the most powerful MCU villain that there is, arguably at very least, and I've gone for Thanos in goal. And I mean, at first it kind of feels like it's as if I've just picked Pele up front or something, where it's like, well done for that, like as if I've not been creative. But like, to be fair, he does wear a gauntlet, so he does have like 1 out of 2 goalie gloves on, and I'm thinking Thanos like peak Thanos, like Infinity War Thanos, where he's pulling the Soul Stone out of the head of Vision, and he's breaking necks and cashing checks, and he's grabbing, he's squeezing the head of Captain America like it's a nut, and it's just he's not, he's super powerful, and he's at his peak, and he's just running on fumes by the end of it, because he's just completely overpowered. And obviously by the end of the film, if you've not seen it yet, then it's way too late for you to have not seen it. But by the end of the film, he makes half of the universe stop existing. So he believes in equilibrium, and that's kind of his, like, he has some dodgy views, but so does Peter Shilton, and he's done well as a goalkeeper. He's a physically large, solid figure. I mean, the only real downside I can see to him is that, as you'll know from Endgame, he's pretty much unfazed by anything except for getting his head chopped off. But then aren't we all? I think that's perfectly fine. That might be his downside, because that's surely anyone's downside. But I think it's a pretty strong case for Thanos being pretty solid between the sticks.
It's intimidating. Big. He's a big bad. He is as villainous as they come. I have got something that I think would. I think it's a tempter. Appreciate levels of power with Thanos, so I've leaned heavily into footballing ability, and I've gone for Bullseye from Daredevil.
No way.
Have you got it?
Surely, yeah. I've not only have I got him, I've also got him as my striker.
No way. Well, then this plays into my hands very nicely. Because
this is 3 times. This is 3 times in 2 weeks.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you'll already know how good he is up front, then, so I don't really need to convince you. But the man,
it's a tough one, because I mean, it's very hard for me to argue when now that I've made the point of him being perfect up front, and you've got him up front as well.
Can't miss.
Exactly. That's it. That's literally it.
Can't miss.
2 words, and it's a solid argument.
Does it beat Thanos? Can't miss.
I think he can't miss, but could he get past Thanos in like peak solid, absolutely impenetrable form? I don't think so, but he can't miss. That is true, and it's a very tough one. And I do believe it's a good pick, because I picked it as well. So I either I lose or I'm wrong, which is not a good place to be in.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be the best striker in the MCU, but it sounds.
I think it's just so. I mean, it's so hard to fight against Thanos in my mind, because it's like a cheat code.
Yeah.
Infinity War Thanos, compared to obviously Endgame Thanos, is quite underwhelming, but Infinity War Thanos he's the ultimate Marvel villain at his peak.
And I think we've got to look at the credibility of the podcast going forward. Can we really put a podcast out there that says Bullseye beats Thanos?
I don't think so, but then I would say that.
Especially when you look at the quality of Bullseyes in the past in film.
Yeah, true. The best if anything, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but in the Daredevil Marvel series, he's actually, after Colin Farrell played like kind of a kind of weird sort of like creepy Bullseye in
we
the
best
film.
forget that.
Yeah, in the series, it's actually he has a completely different name, and it's an FBI agent that's a bit dodgy. And as it goes along, he's like a really good sniper, and he's up to no good the whole time. And then eventually, he starts sort of like going around assassinating people
Oh, wow.
on the sly, which I know is kind of it's a traditional trait of an assassin. But eventually it turns out he is Bullseye, and he ends up kind of getting his own like super suit, and and he kind of goes around, and every time he throws something, it's dead on, and it's like eventually you go, oh god, that's Bullseye, and it's such a good way of doing it. But even so, he doesn't beat Thanos in my mind. But I know I'm biased. Even though, am I biased because I picked him too?
Yeah, I think you're getting into dangerous territory of talking yourself out of a win, I think, because that all sounded really cool.
I could easily do that.
Do you know, the rest of my team looks strong enough, and I can't get past it. It's Thanos. It was inevitable he was going to win. So I think that's 1-0 to you to start the game. First time you've had a lead.
I know, it's scary. I don't know what to do with it. I'm going to carry on with the defensive focus, I think, and I'm going to go for my centre back next. I mean, most weeks I've kind of gone for the tall, strong, physically strong and mentally strong characters. Obviously, last week I went for Grand High Witch, and that was kind of a jokey one, but at the same time, I was like, she could definitely win a header, and you'd want her at the back post when you're attacking. But yeah, this week I've done similar, but I've also gone for kind of intelligence and sort of, not only is he the kind of the thinking man's defender, but he is also the hard man's defender, and he's built from adamantium, which, as we know from the MCU, is just a very, very, very difficult material to destroy, almost impossible to destroy, in fact. For my centre back option, I've gone for Ultron.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and also another bonus to him is that in Age of Ultron, he's voiced by James Spader, who's Robert California in The Office.
I love him,
which just makes him even more enjoyable.
Yeah,
because I could just listen to him all day. I thought it was Bryan Cranston at first, but it's, and I could. He just, when he starts singing "There Ain't No Strings on Me," you could. He's the full package in defence.
Well, I think I've sort of matched you. So I have noted your tendency to go for a certain type of centre back, and I've played the team here because I've got a big, strong, intelligent winger. He's not a typical winger, but it's Doctor Doom.
Oh, I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, so one, he's monarch of Latveria, which means that he will be king of the wing. Which if you're not convinced by rhymes, I don't know what to do with you.
No, rhymes rhymes work for me. I still think Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain will be a good goal scorer for Liverpool, just simply because he's a fox in the box like Chamberlain.
God.
And I mean, how long has he been at Liverpool? Like 4 years or something? And no,
that's definitely not happening.
But, if it rhymes, it counts. That's how it goes.
Yeah. So 1, rhymes. 2, he's
that's number 1.
That was my big play. But no, I think particularly against Ultron, like they share a lot of traits. But what I'd say Doctor Doom does have is he's completely self-taught, and I believe at one point, I think I'm unclear whether he was raised to become the Sorcerer Supreme and then got looked over, or whether he just had the ability to do it. But I believe Doctor Strange at some point says that Doctor Doom has the capability to be Sorcerer Supreme, which I think is pretty. Ultron hasn't got that, and I think,
and that's a shining review of someone. Yeah, recommendation. That's
And then
wow.
You've also got the other aspect, as we've spoken about before when playing FIFA, about a Michael Jordan mindset of going out on the pitch and thinking, "Oh, I can't lose. This is my game. Everybody's fearful of me." And I think Doctor Doom's got that. He's egotistical. Like Latveria has Doomsday on his birthday, or just like whenever he wants people to have a day to celebrate him. And I think that's that sort of like big energy that means he's going to get on the pitch and Ultron, whatever. He's not going to be. He's won. He thinks he's won that. So I don't know. I think we've got battle.
And I think also it's kind of it's an interesting matchup because it's a battle of wits and strength, because they're both super clever characters and super strong characters. I mean, I'm torn because I do think a lot of Ultron as a character, and obviously the actor who portrays him in Age of Ultron, whereas sadly compared to Doctor Doom, he's played by some guy from Nip Tuck in the Fantastic Four film from like 2000 and what the hell was that, 5 or something? And then to be fair, Toby Kebbell was a good actor and he played him in the new version, but that wasn't great
about the
either.
New versions.
But did you like Nip Tuck?
I think I was a bit young to enjoy it.
I got the impression you didn't like me slating the guy.
I'd like the guy from Nip Tuck, but I'm not.
Oh right.
Not overly fussed about Nip Tuck.
He's just such a weird actor to choose. Though.
Do you not think he looks right?
What about the guy from Nip Tuck? Yeah, I suppose. But I've gone for a different approach with this because I think so much of Ultron, and I feel like Doctor Doom is a likable character, and also usually if I'm picking a winger, I'll go for somebody quick and technical, or somebody with a bit of a trickery to them. And instead, you've kind of gone for somebody who is actually like solid and big, more like a Hulk, or not Marvel Hulk, more like Giovanaldo Vieira de Souza, the real Hulk.
Stop. No one knows that.
Yeah, I know his name. I can just about say it, but I do know it. But due to that, I've actually taken the time to look online at what people think, who people think would win between Doom and Ultron, and I wish I didn't, because according to Quora, the famous, untrustworthy but famous question answering website, between Ultron and Doctor Doom, Doom wins by virtue of him being Mr. Fantastic's peer, and because Doom gets nods for being more relevant to the Marvel story, he would win.
Oh, great!
So, sadly, based on my own foolishness of getting cocky and thinking Google would back me up,
should have binged it, mate. Should have binged it. Yeah. Great. Well, 1-1 then.
Yeah.
Game on.
Well, as sadly you've already taken Bullseye and also taken him in the striker position, I'm going to have to bring on one of my subs. I've got a few options, but there's one really that I nearly included from the start, just because I've kind of got like an attachment to the character, and it almost feels like fate that I need to bring him on now. Ever since I was little, I always enjoyed the comics and stuff, and when the films came out, I was just ridiculously excited, because not only was the hero going to be in it, but also the villain that I loved so much as well. He's from the Spider-Man series, and he's surely the most famous Spider-Man villain, even if he's not in the latest films. But you'll definitely remember him played by Willem Dafoe in the Sam Raimi trilogy, because he was just when you think of Willem Dafoe, you just think of the Green Goblin, and that's my pick for striker.
Iconic. That is, yeah. Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. It's just burned in your brain, isn't it?
Yeah, he looks more like a goblin than an actual goblin. And he's kind of he's dressed in like lycra. He's got a massive like crazy Tim Burton style helmet on. He flies around the place in a little like hoverboard thing. Obviously, there's the Dane DeHaan version in Amazing Spider-Man 2 where he's kind of deformed and a bit seedy looking. But in my head, it's Willem Dafoe the whole way. Just because, I like the original version where he was just an actual giant goblin man physically. But just Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin is just like you say, completely iconic. And I know in this game we do kind of bend the rules a bit with what people can actually do on the pitch. I personally love the idea of either Willem Dafoe flying around a 5G five-a-side pitch on this little hoverboard thing, or even just running about, considering that he'd be a man in his late 50s, early 60s in lycra, running about shouting, "Spider-Man, come out to play," like he did in the films. But it's one of them things really where if it loses, it loses, but he's just one of them characters and one of the like roles that I just couldn't leave out. So I'm kind of glad in a way that you've taken Bullseye so I could bring him on.
Yeah. Well, it's weird. It's weird that you've ended up with a Spider-Man villain, because coming up against him in goal is also a Spider-Man villain for me. It's another Doctor. I've gone for Dr. Octopus.
Oh, that's a very good pick.
Yeah, 8 limbs. 8 limbs sounds pretty good for a keeper. And I think for the purpose of this, we're going to count his mechanical arms as arms.
Yes.
So
sure. Well, if Green Goblin can have a hoverboard and not even touch the ground, then surely a man can have additional arms.
It seems only fair. So I just, he's also a very smart guy. So I imagine he's like seeing the shots coming in. He's working out trajectories. Like if it was a film, all the right angle triangles will come up, and the algebra and all this stuff is buzzing around his head, and he's just saving the ball without even like looking.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's sort of my pick. I mean, he's beefy as well. Like he can have command of his area and Schmeichel-esque style. And
I'm kind of torn. I'm torn actor wise because I said obviously with Ultron, James Spader famously played him, and then with Doctor Doom, like he's kind of lacking in like infamous portrayals, but with Doctor Octopus, he's played by Alfred Molina, and it was just a really good performance in Spider-Man 2. So I'm kind of torn on that because that's another like nostalgic pick where I liked both. And when he's got that many arms and he's that clever, and obviously his arms react so quickly, it's hard to fight that.
I think, I think particularly given you've got a sub coming on as more of a, I feel like Green Goblin's like, the old guy coming on for another appearance in his farewell season. This feels like it's you've sort of humoured him. You say, okay, get on the pitch, enjoy yourself, have a run about before you retire. And I feel like
it's Francesco Totti's last season.
Yeah, exactly. And Dr. Octopus is, he hasn't got time for that. He's not gonna give in to sentimentality. I mean, apparently I was looking it up, as you do, research, good man. I was looking it up. Apparently he actually went to marry Aunt May in the comics.
Oh,
yeah, she inherited an island or something that had like nuclear facilities or nuclear capability or potential.
Yeah,
and
you do.
So he went to marry her. I think it got busted up. Somebody crashed the wedding. It wasn't busted.
Well, you never know. I mean, that storyline's weird enough. Why not?
Suddenly Charlie Simpson emerges. So yeah, I look. I think I can't talk myself out of Doctor Octopus. So I think
Yeah,
he's taken it. I think it's
yeah. I mean, in my head, it was picking Green Goblin was always. I mean, there's a reason he was on the bench, but it was one of them things I couldn't avoid. But with like, it's very much a heart versus head decision, and as much to like Green Goblin, I think he'd lose to Doctor Octopus. And also, I mean, Green Goblin, he spent the whole as Norman Osborn, he spent the whole film battling with himself. So
yeah.
I think there's a good chance he'd self destruct on the pitch mentally. So I think Doctor Octopus wins it.
So we're thinking 2-1 then, which
That's 2-1.
which puts you in your regular spot of needing to
Yeah,
win the last 2 matchups.
not ideal.
Not ideal at all.
We've got 2 positions left now. I think I'm going to jump to my winger position, which I couldn't really leave this character out because I just thought it's not only like an interesting character in the MCU, but also like perfectly played by the actor who plays him. In my winger position, I've gone for Loki.
Oh.
Because I mean he's like I was saying before with wingers. I think you want someone who's a bit tricky and a bit tactical and a bit technical. So I've gone for a player that can. I mean, Loki can move anywhere at any time, and he's also like an absolute pain in the neck to anyone he comes into contact with in any film. So I think he'd be an absolute nightmare for any defender. And the fact that he can just move absolutely anywhere at any time would make him impossible to deal with.
Well, I've got someone in a similar vein actually. So I thought about having Loki in my team. But for centre back, which is the position that a winger will come up against in our game of fantasy football, I've gone for Mystique from the X-Men.
Oh,
Now it's not a traditional centre back choice, but I thought, how mad would it be? You've got the ball, you're charging forward, you're trying to play your front players in, and you got 2 of them. That's going to throw you off, isn't it? She's shifted. Suddenly you got 2 Lokis. Do you play it to the right Loki or do you play it to the wrong Loki?
And what a battle that'd be.
Because Loki could then switch into Mystique as well.
Yeah.
It's like it's endless.
True.
It's endless. So we've gone for similar players in one respect at opposite ends of the pitch.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it, but I can't help but think that Loki's slightly more powerful than Mystique.
I mean, yeah, if we're being fair, we've got a Norse god. Does he count as a god? I think he does in the MCU. I'm not sure if he does it. I'm not sure. He's definitely a son of. Well, he's not even Odin's son, is he? He's like a son of a frost giant. Okay, well,
actually, once again, I've taken it down to Quora.com, which are our sponsors tonight. And a lot of places have questioned is Loki more powerful than Mystique? And
really?
The main question is who is better at shapeshifting between the two, which is weird.
What have our friends at Quora got for us?
There's a few different people mention it, but I'm gonna go to Quora because they're our trustworthy, they're our impartial,
and they're the ones that say you win, right?
Well, last time it really went badly for me, so I wish I didn't do it. This time it says if we're talking about comic Loki, which I mean we're really just talking about any Loki versus any Mystique. It says Mystique's shape-shifting is limited to humanoid forms, whereas Loki can shapeshift to anything, which I didn't even know, to be honest.
Wow.
Loki's shape-shifting shape-shifting powers is very powerful. We've seen him shapeshift into flies, dragons, worms, even inanimate objects like missiles. So if anything, he could turn into the ball, which would be a nightmare to play against. But whether that makes him win, I don't know. I'm edging towards that, but I would. There's a lot of fighting over it, though, in the comments. So I will say that.
It's sounding to be honest, I think you've probably won me with the with Loki shapeshifting into a ball.
It's a very close one, though.
If nothing else, though, that's gonna really that's just gonna irritate it's gonna irritate everyone. It's gonna get in your head quicker. I think it's so close because they're so similar, and it's interesting they've come up against each other. But I think also
it is almost like we planned it and we actually haven't. But it's weird how like perfect it turns out, because either it's perfect in the sense that we've got a good like matchup, or it's perfect. It's too perfect that we've got the same player against each other.
I think as well, if we can give it. I think I'm happy to concede to Loki. He's sort of also. I know Mystique. Jennifer Lawrence fans don't get upset. I know it apparently takes her 6 hours to get into costume, which, if anything, just proves her shape shifting is worse than Loki's. So
I'll take.
I think I'm happy. I think I'm happy to concede and take us to yet another 2-2.
God,
which takes
Desmond's very busy.
Yeah, so we're yet again, third episode in a row, going down to final spot drama.
It looks like it's going to be decided in midfield, which is a very. I don't think we've actually decided it in midfield before.
Nope.
And yeah, so it's kind of an age-old football battle, really. But for me, I had a few options that I kind of put to one side that I was tempted to use. Some of them you used yourself. Like Dr. Octopus, I nearly put him in midfield. And I nearly put Loki there until I thought he'd be better on the wing. Obviously, I'm glad I did now. But I went for Magneto.
Oh, no.
Because I thought the one thing that put me off was obviously his main skill is being able to control metal. Obviously, there's bits in the Michael Fassbender version of Magneto where he's even controlling metal underground and pulling it upwards. That's how powerful he is. And then obviously there's a famous Ian McKellen Magneto where he's like a Holocaust survivor who's ridiculously strong and very well acted character. Who's just like super powerful and obviously really kind of like a damaged character that's sort of like really likable, even though he's like the ultimate villain in the X-Men films. But I just think his inner strength and his kind of mental strength makes him like the perfect central midfielder. And let's be honest, if he can mess with metal, maybe he's going to bend them goals about the place.
I was actually feeling really confident about my midfield pick, but I'm not now. So we're gonna go back to Magneto, and I'm gonna ask you whether it's Michael Fassbender or Ian McKellen for you when you think about Magneto.
It's a very tough one because, like. It's kind of, obviously Ian McKellen's a brilliant actor, and obviously we both expressed that in the Gandalf battle last week. And also I think the Ian McKellen thing, it's like we were saying about the Spider-Man trilogy, the Sam Raimi trilogy, where it's kind of like it's nostalgia and it's like what we grew up with. And I remember when X-Men 1 came out and I was just blown away by it because I was like, God knows how old, like 12 or actually probably like 9 or something, and was just amazed that they actually made that into a film after the animated series and the comics and everything. But I just feel like the Michael Fassbender version, you see so much younger, like the younger version of him, and him being sort of like kind of, he's not harnessed his skills and he's sort of like really hard bitten and really sort of ruthless. And there's a whole section where he has a family and then they all get killed. And he can't stop it and stuff, and he's kind of just completely unhinged by it all. But so I suppose I'm kind of thinking of the Fassbender version, even though that's kind of controversial. But I suppose it kind of encompasses both versions.
Yeah,
but I think probably Fassbender. I think that's in my head.
Yeah, for me, and
I just like Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, for me, it's always Ian McKellen. Like you say, those X-Men movies around 2000 were like
Yeah,
Just
it was everything.
it's the blueprint for like it's the foundations with which you can build amazing superhero movies on. I mean, and some of them weren't amazing. Let's not lie. But
Yeah,
at that age, that to me was just like, whoa! They made my favorite cartoon into a film, and it just
yeah,
exploded the universe for me.
yeah.
Interestingly enough, my centre-mid option is also of that vintage.
Oh,
It is not from that movie though. It's actually from Logan, and I've picked X-24, aka
oh,
young Wolverine.
that's a very good pick. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I think I was deliberately trying to be clever, and this is what smarts so much, is I thought this was the sort of pick that you'd hear and think, oh, that's so clever that he wins. Unfortunately, as we all know, despite being
We both know what
yeah,
you're thinking right now.
despite being ferocious and tenacious and indefatigable, despite being in peak physical condition and in the absolute prime of his life, and just an all-round like aggressive ball-winning midfielder, and despite Hugh Jackman himself having the Guinness World Record for longest
Mm.
tenure as a superhero. I'm not sure whether that's time or number of movies, but either way, like he's got a Guinness World Record for it.
And I mean, if you didn't seriously at least come close to tears at the end of Logan, then I don't know what to
Logan
say
was a
to you.
brilliant film. Yeah,
It, they wasted so much time, so much of poor Hugh Jackman's time, and then that film was so worth it in the end. To have so many films where it's like, this is why are you still you're like Oscar worthy actor, and you're doing some of these awful films, like some of them between like X-Men 2 and then the rest of them, and then like that comes along, and I'm like, what? He's so good in this film, and it's so devastatingly sad at the same time. But yeah, and he also, obviously, as you say, he gets to play two
yeah,
characters.
and all that to say, despite an enduring legacy and being I'm not gonna lie, an absolutely incredible pick in the middle. It doesn't matter. Metal body, metal bones, even.
Yeah,
So
I'm afraid
it
there's no
doesn't
way past
matter.
that,
It
is there
doesn't
really?
matter. Am I about to taste defeat? And the annoying thing is, I can hear people screaming, "Bring on a super sub!" I haven't got all my super subs involve some form of metal. Yeah,
Really?
I
What were your sub
I've
options?
I've got the Juggernaut. I've got
Oh,
one of my subs was Loki, so he's gone. I also had a controversial pick of Iron Man because he was being a villain. He was being villainous in Civil War. I was going to
yeah,
argue
true.
that, but it wouldn't matter, would it? Because they just come up against old magnetism,
Yeah,
which is like his knockoff spin-off. Old old Magneto. So I think this is it. I think this is defeat for me.
well, I mean, usually, I tend to be quite sympathetic, and kind of I'm happy to take defeat when it comes my way, but there's no arguing with that. And like we say, I mean, with the only one of your subs that you could deal with, removing the metal would have been Iron Man. But as Captain America famously says to Tony in Avengers Assemble, take away his suit and what is he? Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. And I'm afraid that doesn't win you in
It
midfield.
really does not. It really does not. So I'll rattle through the teams so that you can bask in your glory. So for the home side this week, Borussia Dortmund. It's Thanos in goal. It's Ultron at centre back. Magneto is patrolling centre midfield. The winger is Loki, and up front was Bullseye. Unfortunately, he turned up for the other team, so Green Goblin got subbed in. And they beat Mar Valencia, which consisted of Dr. Octopus in goal, Mystique at centre back, X24 from Logan in centre midfield, Doctor Doom out wide and Bullseye up front for me. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'll take it.
Well, there you go. A 3-2 win for Rob. Listening back to it, I can't help but feel if I just pushed a little bit harder for Bullseye, I might have been able to beat Thanos. And then the whole result could have been different. But hey, credit to him. If you're pulling out Magneto at the end against a mostly metal man, what can you do? So tell us what you think about the result on social. Do you think I should have fought harder for Bullseye? Do you think it was a well-deserved victory for Rob's team? If nothing else, it's cheered him right up. It's at FampFampFoot on Insta and Twitter for all your post-show chatter. We will be back again next week, Friday at 10 a.m, when I will be the home team trying to avenge today's defeat in another rip-roaring edition of Fancy Football. Bye-bye!